Hey there, welcome to episode 128 of the Let's Innovate for Vegas audio program. I am your host, Managing Director of the Innovate for Vegas Foundation, Dan Hugo, recording this at 10:15 in the morning on Tuesday, July 29, 2025. Today's title and topic, Using AI as in artificial intelligence. If you are not familiar with the Innovate for Vegas Foundation and or the Let's Innovate for Vegas audio program, let me first say that we are a Nevada nonprofit corporation, a 501c3 public charity. We commenced our fourth year in existence, July 1st, 2025. So we're moving along, doing interesting things. The purpose of our organization, in case you're wondering, is to enable and encourage ideation, innovation, and implementation to make our communities better. It is purposely vague. We don't say code, developing apps, everything is software. Nothing else matters. We say no such things because those things are not true. So innovation knows no bounds, and that's what we're up to. Hopefully, wherever you've located this audio program, you're able to also locate the episode description, which contains the show notes. Within, you will find the summary and the episode links. No extra links for today. I suppose there could have been many. AI is the hot topic of the day, but we're talking more about what we're doing with it, with our organization so far. So I will read to you the show notes, and we can get started. The summary is way back in episode number 4, the topic of AI. A little typo there. The topic of AI first entered our episodic discussions. Where are we today, moving at the speed of insanity this many months later? That's what we'll talk about. Some links for today's episode, as usual. Our main website for our activities, our civic volunteers, our initiatives, and so on. innovateforvegas.org, innovate, F-O-R, vegas.org. Always work in progress. This will be where you look to see what sorts of initiatives we're working on, who's working on what, how to join in, and so on. Our foundation website, innovateforvegas.foundation, is for the business side. I did mention we're a Nevada nonprofit corporation. We're a 501c3 public charity. Those things are kind of boring. If you're looking at working at some community elevating projects and whatnot, maybe you're not so overly concerned with who's on our board of directors. You could be. What our most recent 990 filings are like, what's our bylaws. Those are things you can find at the Innovate for Vegas.foundation website. Soon, as I'm speaking right now, it is also a work in progress. Everything on the web is or should be. projectact.info, project-act, A-C-T, .info is our autonomous cohort tessellation initiative. The public-facing, external website. It's most definitely a collaborative effort. We will invite others to join in. I mean, they're already invited. It's about connection, communication, and collaboration amongst cohorts of civic volunteers, or it could be others. There's really no rules. The idea is to be as decentralized as possible, to favor those 3 C's, connection, communication, and collaboration, over a velvet rope or membership requirements or similar. So we can accomplish more if we work together, and we have to know about each other first. So that's the goal there. And no, Google is not really sufficient for this. agileforvolunteers.org, Agile, F-O-R, volunteers, Agile, A-G-I-L-E, the one that everybody has had a bad experience with thanks to the Agile Industrial Complex. We have gone back to first principles with Agile. Agile was developed by and for software developers, software engineers, programmers. We are taking some of those same ideas and applying it to any initiative taken on by any civic volunteer. Civil? You should be civil too. Civic volunteer. So a civic volunteer could be a coder, could be a graphic artist, could be a person who speaks more than one language for language translation, internationalization, localization. Could be mechanical or electrical engineering for all I know. Could be a whole host of things, not just code. So it's all about whole team participation and describing what we would like to accomplish, user stories, etc., rather than spending time writing specifications that volunteers don't want to work on. agileforvolunteers.org, also a work in progress. And now on with the show. Things are moving fast, maybe too fast. There will be expectations by some that contributions to our initiatives can and should be the result of vibe coding and generative AI in general. The theory being time need not be spent crafting software by hand when an AI model can do it more quickly. An agent or two can make some code and some UI, maybe even some tests, and everything will be great. The problems with these are at least three. One, our organization is built around civic volunteerism. Devising ways to get out of volunteering is time better spent in the working world, where employees can be paid to circumvent personal effort. So better spend the time on vibe coding and whatnot in the workplace, not amongst your fellow volunteers. Our initiatives will ideally include non-coding elements, as I already intimated, which means some of the vibe coding contributions could be completed by artificial intelligence, sure, while other contributions are the result of humans and actual caring about the initiative, the effort, and the team, wherein the old proverb may hold, the journey is part of the gift. So if a couple people get together to volunteer to work on some part of an initiative to elevate their community, and one says, oh, I'm not going to do any work, I'm just going to tell Copilot or what's the other one? Casper? No. There's so many. Pick one. It doesn't matter. I'm going to just tell my computer to write the code for me, and I'm just going to kick back and do nothing while everybody else does their thing. That's just not going to work out. So contributions.
Sounds like you're planning a drone strike. But what's the real
computer,
story
stop. See what happens when you let AI do what it wants? That is Alexa Plus, which I'm not thrilled with. Contributions authored solely by AI are in a licensing gray area. While some of the cohort might be working on as humans do, others who commit AI-generated elements to parts of an initiative may place the overall intellectual property of the initiative at risk as far as open source licensing, which may not be the intent nor the desire of the members of the cohort. So why don't we all just work together like humans and commit our efforts to the initiative, commit in the Git sense or in the normal human sense. And then the results will be the results of humans collaborating, and it will all be under an open source license, and we can elevate our community and the other communities of others. Everything works out. See, wasn't that easy? At the end of the day, job and life skills are some of the take-home values we hope to provide, well, values and actual skills. Hope to provide in exchange for contribution of civic volunteer time, effort, and expertise. The journey is indeed part of the gift. If we are interested in time to market or minimizing effort in general through automation, we might be pursuing a for-profit endeavor. We hope to learn by doing, not learn by having AI do it for us. That is not actually learning. There's a rather infamous software engineer founder on the internets. He goes by DHH, no relation, Ruby on Rails. And he recently was quoted as saying, I've been enjoying vibe coding. He's obviously a software developer. I've been enjoying vibe coding, but then I started to realize that I was asking it to do the same things over and over, as far as syntax and whatnot, and whatever language he was using. And he said, I started to realize that I keep asking it to do these things over and over because I'm not learning it. I'm just watching it get typed for me. So I'm not including it. I'm not wrapping it up into my own knowledge. It's just become something that I watch happen passively. So by removing his active participation from the coding process, he was no longer learning. He became a spectator rather than a participant, rather than an initiator, in fact. So something to think about, something I think about, in fact. So, hey, let's go back in time to episode 4. So I was being tricky with that one. I had 3 things that started with A and 3 things that started with I. So AI and our ethos for our organization. A, should include awareness, like what is AI doing and how is it doing it? I think most people will become less and less aware of that. Access, do paywalls and resource constraints make some beneficiaries of AI and others training material? This is proving to be true. If you are publishing anything online that's accessible by any computer anywhere on the internets, maybe even beyond the internets. I mean, I'm sure they're using cameras to capture physical art at this point. But if you are creating and you are not using AI, you're being used by AI, basically. And if it's too expensive to use the really cool and most advanced tools, those tools have also been training on your work. So it's the economy is a little out of whack, but access to AI should not be an elitist function. Accountability, is AI a tool for good or for profit at the expense of good? That's just something to be aware of. Jumping in head first, you know what they say, you should never jump into an unknown body of water head first. You might hit the bottom sooner than you were planning. Accountability, though, just the ability to know the tools that you're using are acting in your best interest, or at least some good interest. They're run by big tech, large corporations operating for profit, highly speculative corporations spending lots of money, using lots of power. Will your electricity bill go up because of AI? Maybe. And then the I. Hey, we already have 3 I words: ideate, innovate, implement. Those are part of our purpose statement, to enable and encourage ideation, innovation, and implementation. So if we ideate with AI, are we keeping up with the development of these new technologies with our own use cases and potential solutions to existing issues? So can we use these tools as part of our ideation process, or are they taking over? Innovate, are we thinking outside the box with the new toys, or sticking with the status quo because it is easier? AI told me this, and that's all I know. Are we taking what we're given, or are we using it as part of an overall process? And implement, are we making it happen? That is part of the important part of, that is the important part of it. All of this is to actually do something. You can chat GPT all day and nothing comes of it. So we want to make use of AI somewhere in our day-to-day progress for our foundation and its various initiatives, but more to accomplish the goals of our initiatives. In other words, put data to use or implement chat-style AI interfaces for guiding visitors or for providing useful responses to questions for locals and so on. So you integrate AI tools and methods and whatever is out there at any given time into the work that we are doing for the purposes of community elevation, not have those tools do that work for us. Hopefully that's not a subtle difference. Our goals are most definitely not to turn our initiatives into AI slop that do not require actual human participation to implement. That sort of undoes our entire notion. This approach loses the plot around civic volunteerism if you have AI doing everything for you. Thus, our lengthy and detailed contributing document, let me hit the little typo undo there. Our contributing document is lengthy, but it includes some specifics about you can use AI. You can use coding partner tools. And so Cursor is the one I was trying to think of. Cursor, Copilot, Devon, DeepSeek. What are some of the other ones? There are more. There's a new one every week. You can use those tools. But if you are unable to explain, and by the way, there are a lot of coding tools, a lot of code generation tools out there that are doing a lot of the work for especially coders who are just getting started, who may not know a language as well. So they've just figured, I'll just have the AI do it for me. Then I don't have to learn JavaScript. And while I'm not a fan of JavaScript, you should learn it if you're going to be writing code in it. You should be able to understand the work you're working on. So there's a difference between using a calculator to add numbers together and using a calculator because you don't know how to add numbers together, if that makes sense. So whether you're writing code or maybe you're creating some artwork, which we'll touch on at the end of this episode, if you are able to do that, or if it is a part of a workflow, if it's a tool that you're using in a toolbox of other tools, production by a street, emergency vehicle. I hope everybody's okay. It's a tool in a toolbox. If you hand over the effort to AI, I could very easily have AI write a script for me and read it to you as an audio program, and that would save me time, and I wouldn't even have to think anymore. Then what? Where are we headed with that? That seems like a bad idea. So this very audio program I'll touch on at the end of this episode regarding the use of AI, which is minimal but greater than zero. So by way of example, I suppose. And then there was episode 42. I talked about some application ideas, basically. Open data, our open data capture platform, and consuming existing. And then once we have the ability to capture more new open data, enables building of interaction models and generative analytical outputs for experiments with decision making. Can we tackle public transit routes and schedules, maybe? And I'll talk about that a little bit more later. On the chatting side, there is no shortage of stuff in Las Vegas, things to do, things to see, ways to spend your money, sometimes presented to visitors and locals alike in a fire hose of images and dates and keywords and hype. Navigating this in a user interactive way might be interesting to play with, so that you have more of a Vegas buddy to hang out with. Like, hey, where can I find some gluten-free donuts? Maybe it'll tell you. Maybe it'll just tell you, and you won't have to ask, because it'll know you are preferring gluten-free items. Anyway, the interesting parts are the things we haven't thought of yet. And innovation gets really interesting when we reach the end of the cleared path, the edge of the map, the undiscovered country, so to speak, not the death part. That's what undiscovered country is. Anyway, so that was taken from episode 42 from my notes, my production notes. So yeah, today, where are we? I mean, episode 42, that was only fewer than 100 weeks ago. So less than 2 years ago. What are we on? Episode 128 today. So yeah, 42 to 128. That's about 58, 78, 86 weeks. Did I do that math correctly? I should get a calculator. So AI is a tool, not a worker. This is not the hype. The hype is that you can replace doing work with AI. That will save you time and energy and effort, and you can put that time into other things. That may be true. AI as an implement can be a work multiplier, like a bicycle. The Steve Jobs approach to human effort multiplication. There is a fine line, but what if we consider AI tools as we do kitchen tools? The blender may replace the hand whisk, and certainly the oven replaces open flame for cooking. And the convection oven, not the convention oven, who does this typing here? The convection oven may take the place of a normal oven sometimes, maybe cooks differently. And a microwave oven might work in some cases, although it does not actually replace a convection oven, which is sort of interesting. Right? A microwave oven is much faster, but it does not cook the same as a convection oven, which can be faster than a conventional oven. So what's more important, the speed or the output? The list goes on. Working in the kitchen, these tools make for repeatable outcomes. They save some labor, increase throughput. Misusing these tools may result in bad outcomes, which may make the whole team look bad. 1-star reviews thanks to using a blender when hand whisking would have made the outcome so much better. For example, there are too many cases where knowing what you're doing with or without labor-saving tools makes the difference, not how much labor your tools can save you. There are many anecdotes floating around about productivity gains being largely false. This is mostly focused on AI software development tools, I should say. And in fact, another typo. And when I say typo, it's usually a missed, like one dropped character. So I've spelled a word correctly, but it's not the correct word. And in fact, the real data shows productivity losses. This was, I'm sure, a controversial study that showed software developers, programmers believe that they are more productive when they are vibe coding, but they actually spend more time arguing and trying to convince their coding tools to do what they're trying to accomplish. So they end up being less productive, less efficient in the implementation of what they're trying to accomplish than if they would just write the code themselves. It's hard to say, though, because some might be experimenting with this and so on. I think it's sort of cloudy for coding. So this is all for coding. What does this mean for other creative works? It's hard to say. What about the other things like drafting and building or mechanical object, designing a usable user interface based on actual co-creation interactions with the intended users of an application or platform? Making things, any things for humans could be done by some AI tools, surely, right? Or maybe humans learning how to make things for other humans actually has value, especially when we are not rushing to make our quarterly numbers. And that's part of the point. If you feel you must save time, you should do that when you're being paid for that time, because someone somewhere will say, gee, you saved us a lot of time, which equals money, so now we can lay you off or promote you, one of the two. Can generative AI tools be used legitimately to accomplish some task? Sure, of course. If you already know how to do something, if you already possess that skill and maybe even some experience putting that skill to work, using AI to do the boilerplate stuff, the stuff that you need to do 10 times, you've already done it 1,000 times before. It could be code, it could be something else. Maybe I'll tell you, here's an example. When I was first learning how to do drafting with a pencil on paper, remember those days? The first thing you would do is create a title block. You would create a border. Now, this was in our classroom setting. I don't know if this was really practical. The teacher wanted us to draw a border around the edge of the paper. So that was like the bounding box of the work area. It was probably like a quarter of an inch. So you're basically setting up a margin around the entire sheet of paper. Then you would create a title block in the lower right-hand corner, and then you would put your name and the name of the project and the date and so on. And then you would start the actual drawing process. And then there'd be dimensioning, and there'd be inserting measurements and so on. So some of these things, once you've done them many, many times, like just start out with a title block on a properly bounded drawing surface, and then I know what the dimensions are, but why don't we get that text in there? Oh, we want to change it to metric, right? So there's all sorts of things that can be automated once you've actually accomplished and you understand how these things function. Because guess what? Every once in a while, if there's a mistake, you should be able to spot it. You shouldn't be saying, oh, the AI did it. I don't know how it works. So it could be code or it could be anything else. If you're using AI to replace a skill that you do not have, or if you are not learning from the use of the AI tools, which I fear is happening quite frequently, the tools have become the worker, the contributor. Are you getting in its way? I sometimes think that is going to be the test. I have watched people open up a ChatGPT window to do the equivalent of, in Unix systems, there's this thing called man for manual pages, like instructions. I'll just ask ChatGPT to explain it to me. Well, but you can just type man grep and it will tell you how the grep command works. No, I'd rather ask ChatGPT to explain. Okay, it's probably just going to read the man page for you. So if you don't know how to find this information, where to look, what to do with the information once you have it, if you need it to be explained to you in this way, maybe the first time, but if you find yourself doing that repetitively, just like DHH, as I mentioned earlier, are you learning or are you observing? How about some analysis? There was a time when machine learning was used for classification. Oh, wait, it still is. Probably the entry level, everyone can probably figure this out, is you train your model, your machine learning model, on handwritten characters of a character set. So the characters that we typically use, A through Z, uppercase, lowercase, numbers 0 through 9, punctuation, etc. So you train in different orientations, different levels of quality, good handwriting, bad handwriting, and so on. And then you can classify a given character with your trained model, and it will say, oh, that's probably an A, that's probably a D, that's probably an E, and it'll give you a percentage Like there's a 98% chance this is an A, there's a 72% chance this is a B, and so on. So you can classify things and you can tune your models and you can overfit, which will go a little weird. And there you go. So when you develop a model and you are able to capture some data to train on, and then you feed in some new data, you should have your classifying model be able to tell you, oh, that's probably this or that. So that's one example of machine learning application. So what if we had a bunch of open data, which we do, and we could capture even more open data, which we could do, open data capture platform. Now suppose we could classify our data to identify patterns, maybe predict interpolated or extrapolated values, and who knows what else we could come up with when we start with data and see where it leads us. So rather than having a chat with your data, which is something that people do, why don't we actually handle the data itself? Anecdotally, if you ask a chat tool, ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever, to do mathematics, I think they've come a long way. But it used to interpret the questions as just words like, hey, what's 2 plus 2? It's looking for a description of what those characters are. It might come up with 4, it might come up with something else. So it's possible now that they're sort of combined. What is it called? Multiple. I can't remember what it's where they split the tasks among different models. So you could have a model that understands mathematical inputs and can actually perform mathematical operations and so on. So that's great. But at the end of the day, if we can actually take some open data, or if we can take some interaction data, or if we can take, like I said earlier, some transit routing, Greater Vegas in particular has a thing for wanting to create traffic problems, whether it's collisions with or without injuries, unfortunately, and worse on our freeways or surface streets, or if it's just traffic, or more likely construction and construction delays, detours, rerouting, special event detours and rerouting, and so on. So bus routes, normal traffic flows, keeping a schedule, these are all very tricky. So maybe that's an area where we could apply some machine learning to determine what better routes are, better detours are, and so on. This is not new, but it's something we could make a part of our open transit initiative, for example. So we could use AI, but not to talk to people. It would actually be analyzing real data and possibly improving routing, as one example. It is completely reasonable to assume that our initiatives, as they are mapped out today, as I'm recording this, could all include some application of AI-based tools for data analysis, text summarization, image classification, and so on. So yeah, Open Transit is one. The My Muni and Welcome projects could be generating analytical summaries of data such as weather or rainfall, correlate weather with traffic, come up with some presentation of a classification of that. So there's all kinds of possibilities that we could be playing with, rather than just typing in "explain grep to me." Grep is that's a pattern matching tool for text. But if you explain how to do math to me, right? There's all sorts of cases where people fall back to asking questions in a chat style, but we could be using these tools for much more than that. And a more advanced application might be to place some trained tools and methods into the hands of the casual user, not as a chat client necessarily, but as community elevation tools, enabling people in communities proximal and distal, so here in the Greater Vegas area and beyond, to close gaps, address issues, solve problems. Who can say what those things are today? It's hard. Who knows? But that journey begins by engaging members of communities, considering co-creation efforts, thinking outside the box. And also, by the way, if we develop these tools that interact with people in our communities, those tools can be part of the co-creation process. Like, hey, it'd be great if I could do my own routing, and we're starting to see, especially in calendaring, and so calendars might get a new life breathed into them. Using AI to do your calendar for you. Okay. Sure. Email replies are kind of low-hanging fruit, but if your calendar can actually look at your schedule, what could be interesting is if it actually, now this is not really an AI application, but you can certainly use AI to map your schedule onto locations of the schedule. So if you're having a meeting on one side of town and a meeting on the other, maybe it could help you with different routing options for transit, transiting that distance. Maybe it would say, hey, these two, if you go the next day, you'll be closer because of this other thing. So it could sort of consider your day, acting on your behalf, sort of agentic, consulting routes and bus schedules and locations and venues and menus even. That would be interesting. Hey, I know my AI knows that I prefer low carbohydrate meals. So it will try to advise me accordingly. There's all sorts of possibilities here that can enable the end user to make use of technologies for their own benefit and so on. So the list goes on. I think if we limit ourselves to, use AI to generate code, done, I think we've left 99% of the interestingness on the table at that point. So yeah, that's sort of the mindset as we have gone into our fourth year here. Possibilities, innovation. Innovation is not simply typing questions into ChatGPT and seeing what comes of it. And so now, finally, a word on the cover art for this audio program in general. Production of the Let's Innovate for Vegas audio program is, thus far, a one-person operation, and you are listening to that one person right now. I do use AI tools occasionally, either from Canva, has some AI image generation tools, or more recently from Google, the Gemini image generation stuff, to generate some parts of the cover art for this very audio program. Usually if I'm trying to make a specific point with the cover art or something, I can't find an image, I really tend to fall back on a catalog of what's essentially clip art or stock photos and similar. I manipulate those. So they're licensed images from Canva. So Canva, it's kind of included in the subscription. So I do a lot of that, and Gemini occasionally to generate something unusual. I also composite those AI generated images or image parts with text, individual elements, like I said, the clip art and stock photos and so on, individual elements and some other creativity to compose the cover art each week. Would I prefer someone lending their artistic talents to this part of the production? Of course. Though technically, production of media such as this is not a part of the initiative collection we are pursuing, probably not specifically subject to our contribution policy. That's kind of a dodge. So I will say that, it's still part of our overall ethos. It is making use of AI to do some of the work in the publishing pipeline. But again, I use it as a tool. I don't just say, make me a cover. And in fact, I sometimes engage in repetitive attempts to generate something and I give up because it's not getting what I'm trying to accomplish. So some ideation there, some tweaking and so on. So I don't consider it to be doing all of the work for me. It's certainly a partner in crime, so to speak. So once I can locate a volunteer or volunteers who would like to take part in this production effort and expanding it perhaps, we can have an all-human pipeline. That's preferable. In the meantime, use of the AI tool in a toolbox that includes clip art, stock photos, different typefaces and text tools, themes and styles and effects and so on, and all sorts of plugins and image manipulation tools of all flavors. AI just becomes one of those. So again, if I were just saying, make the cover art, that would be a lot closer to the thing I'm describing here as problematic. I still don't feel that it's a great thing to rely on AI tools to come up with some of the elements of cover art. I also don't think the cover art is a part of our overall goal to elevate communities and to enable and encourage ideation, innovation, implementation. So it's possibly a gray area. I would absolutely prefer to work with other people. And in the meantime, like I said, it's a tool in a toolbox and production by street. And that, I believe, is a more positive use case for AI tools in general, especially generative AI tools. Write my term paper for me, not good. Find me a quote and give a reference. That's a little bit better. Like it's assisting you in the production of a term paper. It's not doing the term paper for you. If you even know to look for the quote, that is more interesting than do the work for me. So I think it's going to be an interesting time, but I think really for our foundation, we really want to lean into people collaborating, learning, having their hands in the mix. I built this. I did this. I was part of this project. I was part of this initiative. I typed in some prompts and had AI write my part of it. Is not quite as appealing. And I don't know if it's good for your other members of your team who are not doing that to say, you just typed in write code for me. So that's where we can leave it for today. I'm sure AI will be a conversation all the time in the near future. And so we'll see where the world takes us. That is it for today. Thank you for listening as always. And we'll talk to you next week. Take care.